as some mayors have done, because I don't think I'd recover from that. We won't be renaming Missoula anytime soon either. But what we do hope is that we can provide an application that makes some sense. And my understanding is that Google isn't interested in being a provider of ultra high-speed internet. Google is interested in creating some audience and demonstrating some capacity and showing what communities who are creative, clever, ingenious in some cases, and committed can do with technology used appropriately and again creatively to build communities. So that's a little bit why we're interested in the city of Missoula. Ellen Buchanan in our redevelopment agency has been kind enough to work with Carl Horton, who is our information technologies manager at the city of Missoula, to craft an application. What I've asked Ellen to do is just talk briefly about that application, our process, what's left to do, and when it needs to be submitted. Ellen.
Thanks. I'm going to be really brief.
Would you mind?
I'm sorry, we're on MCAT. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You want to do yours again?
No, I don't.
Is this on? No. Is this on?
Should be.
See, this is why we need Google Fiber. We're baffled by the microphone technology. Don't tell him that.
Thank you, Marty. Obviously, I'm the perfect one to be heading up this project for the city. I can't even turn on a microphone. What Carl and I are doing is putting together the application that Google has crafted for cities and counties and other interested municipalities to apply to become one of the cities that's selected for this project. A lot of it is data gathering. I mean, they want to know how many poles are out there and who owns them and what it costs to attach to them and how much conduit's in the ground and can they access that conduit. A lot of it's demographic information. A lot of it is geographic information. I think one of the real advantages that we have here that we're touting in this is that Missoula is pretty compact and fairly dense. The other big advantage I think we have is that Missoula is more highly educated than your average community. And we have, we suspected this, but we have verified it statistically. We have fairly larger internet use, pretty large, greater internet use here than we do in the average community in the United States. So we think that gives us an advantage. We also have a lot of home-based businesses that depend on broadband connection for their operation, and we have a number of fairly high-tech businesses here, a lot of which have sprung out of the University of Montana and some of the research and development efforts out there. I think one of the big pieces that will help sell us is the piece that I have yet to put together, and that's kind of why should you come to Missoula? And one of the reasons that I think the mayor wanted to have this meeting is to get that kind of input from the public. A lot of things that I don't even know about that are going on. I've gotten emails that, well, such and such happens out at Montech, or such and such is going on with these businesses that I wouldn't have any way of knowing. So we're looking for your creative ideas that we can weave into the story that we're going to tell Google to try to make this happen. The other piece that I guess the mayor's going to touch on is you guys need to get everybody you know to go online and tell Google why we should be doing this. So,
Thanks, Ellen.
and please, if you make suggestions, say it in a way that I can understand.
Yeah, you need to talk to Ellen and I as if we were five with regard to technology, which we'll cop to early. Before we adjourn this evening, I will show you on the City of Missoula's homepage how to demonstrate your support, do the speed test, et cetera. But this is really about hearing from you, and I think Ellen was utterly eloquent in her statement. We need to hear from you why this is important for Missoula from your perspective. So with that, The only request I have is that we are on television, so I will hand you the microphone. If you just tell us who you are, what your interest is, and what you think, that's great. And again, we're shockingly informal, so I'll just hand the microphone to Mr. Austin.
Rod Austin with the Parking Commission. We're looking at converting some of our parking technology to get up to speed with the rest of the world, and some of that technology requires wireless connectivity that I don't think we have currently, or at least not in the fashion that we need it. So I think that's one avenue that would work for us as well. As the city and the county looked at ways that this wireless would help city and county employees do their job. Instead of coming back to the office every time to do a report, are they able to do it on site when they're done doing an inspection or whatever it is they do?
We could just, John, we could just pass the wall.
Anything to say right now? You, Jackson?
Not right now.
I'm Adam Ragsdale with the Missoula Housing Authority, and I think one of the things too to consider, like what this other gentleman mentioned, is this, just the fact that as we continue to move to a world where more and more people are telecommuting, and we're trying to get people to utilize alternative transportations and to, think in ways that keeps you from, having to use your vehicles and that kind of thing. I think the faster we can have internet, and I know from experience that Bresnan just isn't fast enough a lot of times to be able to do your work from home, that having that high-speed internet capability to be able to actually do your job from your home if you need to, or remotely from a job site or what have you, I think is a really important thing for us to be able to do.
I'm James Green, and I'm currently a laid-off senior telecommunications engineer. I have experience working for independents, co-ops, and the Bell-operated and remote Bell-operated companies. I'm interested in this project for multiple reasons. There have been in the past proposals for fiber to the curb, fiber to the communities, fiber to the home. I've been involved in some of those projects as design engineer and tactical planner. I would like to see this come about, this Google presentation, this proposal, for many reasons. One, that I might be able to be employed and live in this town rather than have to leave this town or the state again to seek employment. Two, businesses at home are spawning kind of rapidly, and they've been doing so for a couple of decades now. Some customers have the demand for particular services that aren't available to them strictly because of their location. If this was a comprehensive plan that involved feeder and distribution nodes of fiber networks, it would make access to these high-speed rates of data easier for those future potential developments of business at home and work at home situations. So I have multiple interests in this project. I could contribute to it. Thank you.
I'm Jim Semmelroth. I'm the IT manager at the Missoula Public Library. And I think one of the most interesting aspects of this possibility is something that we can't even imagine yet. It will be such a dramatic change in the services that we could potentially have here that it would be fascinating to see what this could bring to Missoula.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Stevens, and I'm the director for the Montana Web Designers and Developers Association. I'm also a paralegal, and I'm a Missoula native. And one thing that I wanted to do today was to invite you all to come to a rally in Caras Park at noon on Saturday. We are trying to just do a video for Google, either to, pass off to the mayor's office as part of their application, or submit ourselves, that shows Google what people in Missoula would do with the increased speed in a visual medium. So we're encouraging people that come to the rally to bring signs that say, I would blank, with 1 gigabit per second, or whatever you think you might do. So if you want to...
That's an invitation.
Yeah, right. So we've got some courtesy of MCAT and another
up and coming Missoula videographer. We've got some video coverage for that, so anyone that wants to come down and contribute, we would appreciate that. And then secondly, I just wanted to make a couple of comments in response to the Missoulian article that I read with some Bresnan and Blackfoot arguments against Google coming to Missoula that I thought were sort of illogical. And one of them was that people are already getting enough bandwidth in Missoula. And I think that we've already heard some comments here that they're not, you know, complaining about speed. And I think it's not a situation where demand is meeting supply. I think supply is, or I don't know if I said that right. It's not, supply is not meeting demand. Supply is like restricting demand. So people would do a lot of other things like work from home or pursue other kinds of businesses and economic development for the city if they had more access. And like this gentleman just said, we don't even know what it could do because it would be faster than any of us have ever experienced. And then the other thing that they mentioned was sort of like feeling the squeeze competitively, which might be good. And also, if you watch the video on Google's website, they say that they're going to have an open access network policy, which means they're going to share their network with other providers so people can have more than one service option. And so I think that really kills the argument for that because they're not hogging it, they're not looking to limit it. They want people to have multiple service options. And so it might be, you know, free extended access for the current internet providers in the Missoula Valley anyway. Personally, my husband and I live at Butler Creek. We don't get cell phone service there because we're in a little valley. My husband does web design, and the only hardline access we can get is dial-up through Quest. And we've contacted Bresnan before. We had Bresnan when we lived in town, and they don't have any plans to expand to that area. And really, any local providers don't really have an incentive to expand to some of those close but rural areas in Missoula because it's not cost effective for them. There's not enough population in that area to justify them running fiber, but that's something that Google would be willing to do. And I think that could really give an economic push to the surrounding areas too. Mm-hmm.
You're multitasking as we speak.
I am. Not on 100 megabits per second, though. I'm Ken Wall with Geodata Services, and we've been helping with this proposal a bit with some data. I wanted to partly call attention. There's a map up at the front there. My company and several others under Tetra Tech here in Montana won the competitive award to do the Montana broadband map. This was stimulus funding last year, which is actually stimulating a lot of local businesses. We went from 3 employees to 7 as a part of this. We're over at the Montech Center. So this is part of a national map that's going to Congress next year in February, and we're mapping, there's about 100 plus providers in Montana. We're not just taking the provider's word for it, we're using citizen input through the site that's on the top. So we're inviting all of you. The site went up on Saturday. It's mtspeedtest.org. It's under the Department of Commerce. Went up Saturday. We've had 5,000 hits so far. Missoula isn't quite in the lead yet. We're behind Bozeman, in fact, who's also submitting one of these Google proposals. So I urge you to get on there. What it helps us do is to validate what the providers tell us and the public data, and actually it measures speeds as well as indicate which providers are providing service. So this will be a map that's publicly available to everybody, and that map up there on the wall is the results as of about noon today, colored by county, and then the bottom is in the Missoula neighborhoods. So about 200 people so far in Missoula have signed up. It's not a popularity contest, but we urge you to do that to help us build a better broadband map for Montana. In terms of this proposal, it's interesting, you know, Google's motto is do no evil, and I think they honestly are, without my cynical hat, trying to really push internet and trying to push the other providers, because we do see a lot of competition aversion among the providers in Montana, particularly some of the bigger ones. I think, I mean, you know, Blackfoot, for instance, is one of the best providers out there at investing in the local community. You compare them to Quest, you compare them to Bresnan, you know, and I can't imagine, there's a lot of, you know, what they call dark fiber that isn't used, and they would leverage, I think, Blackfoot's capability and what they're doing here. So I think there's many opportunities for the existing providers, not just a competitive issue. I think the three biggest things that Missoula has going for it, one has already been mentioned, the high-tech businesses. There's a huge geospatial business community. There's several, among the leaders in the state, several companies here in addition to ours that are doing that, and all of them are typically small businesses. There's the Fire Lab and the Forest Service. So the government sector is a big plus, and a lot of things that are happening here that aren't happening in the cities we're going to compete with. I think it's highly likely that Google's going to go for a community the size of Missoula, something in the 50,000 range population, 50 to 60. You know, they want to be able to push this, to advertise it. They're very smart. They timed this with the federal FCC presentation to Congress this week, so it's very well-timed, smooth operation by Google. They're getting the cities to provide them incredible marketing data that the federal government is paying hundreds of millions of dollars to hire contractors like us to put together. So they know what they're doing, obviously. But I think it would bring a lot of great opportunities to Montana and to Missoula. I mean, not only in direct services in Missoula, but the publicity we get, it would raise everybody's boats a lot. The other two sectors I think are critical are the health market and the hospitals and like the surgeons that come here annually for the meeting, the world-class events that, in terms of telemedicine, there's folks potentially locating here that are going to be monitoring and working with medical records. And then, of course, the university is the other big plus there. So we have a lot going for us, and I think we're going to be competing with communities like Bozeman and Bend, Oregon, and others for this. And I think we have a good shot. I think we really need to try to make it happen. There are providers out there. You know, we're also mapping North Dakota, and there's Beck is a company in southern North Dakota that's doing fiber to the home. There's some small ones in Montana that are doing fiber to the home. So I think there's good opportunities. And I also think some of the infrastructure is you know, particularly Quest infrastructure may have some issues. We have old 20-year copper wires in the ground that don't last forever. So I think many opportunities are out there. So.
Thanks, Ken. Just wanted to mention a couple of things. Ken's been extraordinarily helpful in providing us the vast amounts of data that Google needs, so I just wanted to give you a plug. We really appreciate that. Also want to mention, I don't know if we have folks who represent providers here tonight, but I hope we do, and this isn't about bashing you all, it's about learning more about what you do and how we can work together, and that's a piece of this puzzle as well. And I think, as Ken suggests, more and more I'm hearing that we have opportunities to work together rather than compete with each other necessarily. So.
My name's John Geeson. I'm a realtor with Majestic Montana Properties, and I think we don't even realize all the pluses that this could be to the community, just things that once it's here, you'll think, oh my goodness, we can do this. And, you know, we've already mentioned the hospital and the school and the government type stuff, which are big things and obvious things. I think as far as a community, the planned rally kind of thing is a really big plus, and our idea was as many individual videos that could be done to go on all of the social network things, you know, the YouTube kind of things, to promote all the things that individuals might have. So all these things that came up Saturday, if individuals that are doing that can do that in a YouTube fashion, and there's definitely a lot of help that can be done there, you know, with our MCAT type services. There's people that can do those kind of things that could really put a professional touch to what we have to offer in Missoula beyond all the mechanics that everybody else has too.
My name's Michael Loftus. I'm a independent consultant contractor. I work here in Missoula. One of the things I need to touch on really quickly, there's clearly a little bit of misconception going on, at least from a few people. Wireless has been mentioned. Google's not talking about wireless at all. However, Google is not excluding wireless from any eventual development of this network. What they are talking about primarily is fiber to the home, fiber to the premises, similar to what Verizon Fios provides. The key difference is, as was touched on by this young lady here, is that they want to provide an open network. What this means is that Bresnan can provide cable TV services over the same fiber that Qwest can provide phone services, or Bresnan can provide phone services, or Blackfoot. What they want to do is, instead of creating new little fiefdom that's kind of been happening with the cable networks and the phone networks, mostly out of necessity in the past, they want to produce an open network that will allow anyone to sell services to anyone else within that open network. This means that web hosting companies like ModWest can connect to the network and provide high-speed web pages to local consumers. Businesses that are entirely internet-based can connect to this network. It's not just about residential. They are intending to try to level the playing field a little bit, and to bring forward not just IP data services, but any sort of communications type services into the home, not just Google services, which is a big difference compared to a lot of other fiber to the home, fiber to the premise sorts of things. They want to advance technology, and they're taking a longer view on that. They also want to experiment with all of the technologies involved in producing this sort of network. They want to produce a reliable, fast network, and so they want to publish all the information that they gather and the methods that they gather during the course of building this network. So it is a research lab, but Google's proven that even in the research labs, Gmail was in beta for how long, but how many people used it when it was in beta, and how few people had problems with it. They run things, even when they call it beta, they run things as if it was, critical, and they have a good history of doing that. So.
Up until recently, I thought fiber to the home involved shredded wheat. So.
I'm Jeff Badnock, and I don't have a dog in this fight. It's not my business, is not the area that I'm involved in. I have probably more questions than answers. One of the questions that occurs to me is this is a exciting, bold venture on Google's part, and there are literally scores of communities that are vying for the privilege of getting this, and I'm glad that our community is getting it. And it makes me feel proud to be a Missoulian, to see all the people here who are trying to help make this happen. There is a chance, this isn't a sure thing, obviously, for us, but I'm hoping that in the event we are not selected as a community, the same energy that we have that is identifying opportunities and problems with our current connectivity, if we don't get selected, will still stay on the table for us as a problem that we will address. All the things that I've heard both here and elsewhere about the needs that Missoula has are not going to go away. If we don't get selected, they're still going to be here, and it's still going to be a problem that will be in the community's best interest to address. So I'm hoping that we're not looking at this as a one-shot deal, that we're all going to stay involved in pitching to make our systems better.
Hi, John. Good. Well, I'm Bill Sampson. I'm with the Missoula Area Chamber of Commerce, and became interested in this idea when it first came out. And there's a couple of things. I think in talking with my son, who's sitting next to me, he's probably got more intelligent ideas than I have. But I think just the fact that we're interested in this, and if it comes to the attention of maybe high-tech companies, that Missoula could be a great place to live, even if we don't get the Google contract, it would still be a good thing to be involved in. I love this community, and I think it's a fantastic place to live. And I think we need to look to the future. They say in our schools, students are trying to, or teachers are trying to teach students to learn about things for jobs that don't even exist right now. So if we say that we've got everything we need here in Missoula as far as our communications goes, that's kind of ridiculous. We've got to always be looking to the future. And I'll pass this over, and hopefully my son will say something.
Well, I guess the pressure's on now. I don't know, is the author that wrote that piece in the Missoulian here? Okay. When I read that piece, I really tried to think about where you were coming from, and I think the fairest way that I could think about it was that you weren't trying to be balanced, but that you were trying to provide a counterpoint to the kind of immediate excitement that people have for the potential of Google Fiber. I learned a lot of stuff. I didn't realize that Missoula was on a backbone, and I really, very quickly, it went way over my head in terms of how much money is spent here and what the local telecoms have done, and the existing infrastructure. And so I thought, well, I'm out of my league there, like a lot of people. I didn't have really any way to find a connection to that. So I started to think, so beyond the infrastructure, first of all, having Google interested in any community, just like someone down here was saying, the beta stuff, is really incredible, because it's not just going to be a fiber thing. If Google then has invested an amount of attention in our community that it can continue to add new projects on top of. And to just focus down on existing infrastructure and we have everything we need, I think is really a one-dimensional way to look at it. So beyond that kind of existing infrastructure and the kind of technical details of it all, my interest in it is kind of what will this do for the perception of everywhere at large for the community of Missoula. And if all of a sudden Google is specifically interested in Missoula for any project, people are going to ask why. And so I went to school in Portland, and then for a while, and then I spent a few years at a tech startup down in San Francisco. And what I really noticed is that the people who are involved in these new dynamic technology fields are making good money. And they're in a position to choose quality of life over just showing up for a job every day. And they're in those places, and when everything, the dot bomb happened in San Francisco, a bunch of people moved up to Oregon and Portland because it was cheaper to live there, and also because it was a beautiful place to live. And you ask, what does Missoula have going for it? Well, it already has some great tech stuff going for it, and the potential for a lot more. But it's already a really beautiful community, and there's also been a lot of work that's gone into making it really a wonderful cultural center for this region of our country. And I just got this from Debbie. She just proposed tonight this new cultural plan for Missoula. And you were mentioning earlier about the amount of educated people here. And that's, I think, what Google is looking for. What community can we go to where there's a condensed population of people who are going to be able to take this, these resources that we want to commit and form them in their own dynamic and creative ways. And there's no way that we can extrapolate about what this might become, because try to understand what's going to happen in the next 5 years of tech. It's absolutely impossible. And so I think that's where I'm really thinking about it. Like I said, all the infrastructure stuff, the numbers, there was no kind of perspective given with any of the numbers that you had in your piece. So I was very quickly lost in all of that noise. But there's good potential here. The last thing that I would say is, it's wonderful that all these people are interested in what's going on, but based on what I've read on the web of, what other communities are doing, I'd say Missoula is definitely behind right now in terms of body count support. And you know, I first kind of got exposure to you at the Ignite Missoula last year, and I thought that was cool. As I loved your sense of humor, you're really engaged and everything. But I would say that, you know, I know it was a joke, but to say that you have to treat me like a 5-year-old on this is, we need more engagement than that. And even if that means, you know, having someone else that does more of the speaking on it, you know, what I would balance that with is, you know, the most important part of it, all of it is, I feel like in the few times that I've seen you, that you're a really good listener and you are interested in what people say. And that's more important than any kind of like misinterpreted joke that you could throw out. So that's a huge bonus to us as a community, and I think also as Google evaluates communities and their community leaders, that they're going to be engaging with community leaders and mayors who are in a position to think on a broad level about the potential of what they can add to the community.
Hi, I'm Debbie Florence. I work for the Missoula Cultural Council, and I'm interested in the arts and culture side of things, but I also was just going to share one little idea I'm doing with the very limited technology, and this was just something like what I would do kind of a thing. I'm starting at this for First Friday. If you went last month, just a couple weeks ago, every single gallery was packed. I could barely get close to the art. It's getting to be as popular as the Saturday markets. There's a lot of people that go out for it. And we have a First Friday blog where we keep just compiled information that's just about those openings. And we're now going to have a map, an interactive map that's available for handheld devices, so that when people are downtown, they can look at this map, find out where their friends are, talk to their friends via this product called Street Brew. It's an application that can be delivered to phones. So when I heard about this, I was very excited because I'm interested in using technology for community building. And I also think that the arts and culture are excellent economic engines. So putting all those things together, the culture, the real people that are actually wanting to find, you know, authentic experiences and using technology as a tool for that, I'm extremely interested in that, and I think that, you know, it's been said, but, you know, we have a really dynamic community here of people, and I think we should highlight that stuff the most, because the technology workers are the ones that are going to want to live in the mountains. And you know, I've become accustomed to our fun phrase of, well, it's poverty with a view. You know, a lot of us stay here because of how beautiful it is, even though we don't necessarily, or we haven't been at the top economically. I stay here because of that. So I think we can attract people because of that. So that's it.
Well, I'm not sure I'm in the right meeting, but I have a little different take on this. My name is Linda Smith, and I've come to ask a few questions about the Google proposal because I'm not very familiar with the details of it. I'm a concerned citizen who happened to see a film called Full Signal at the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival this last February. And it got me thinking about the benefits and costs of Google coming to Missoula. Now, I heard this gentleman over there saying that this is not primarily a wireless proposal, but that Google would want to be able to look into or go forward with wireless probably at some point in the future. Did I understand that correctly?
They're talking about right now, all they're talking about is wired network and providing a sort of a dense wired mesh throughout the community, to each building, to each premises. And then from there, what the community does with it is up to the community. You know, if there's a provider that wishes to provide and build a wireless network on top of that, then Google's not going to block anyone from doing that. That's up to the community. They're putting out there, they want to connect everyone. And then see what happens. That's part of the experiment, as I understand it from Google and from their public documentation, as well as a couple of discussions I've had. They don't currently have plans for wireless built into this scheme. It doesn't mean that they're not going to do it. It just means that that's not what this proposal is about. And that's why, if any of you took a peek at the side of the application for the city, it's asking about physical infrastructure a lot. You know, what does it cost to attach to Northwestern Energy's poles or residents' poles or whoever they are, who owns the right-of-way, stuff like that. It's about getting a connection into your house, into your living room.
Okay. Well, my concern is primarily wireless, but I would like to address it at this meeting just because it sounds to me like it's something that could easily come up community-wide. Anyway, Full Signal, the film I saw, explores the health effects and efforts to regulate the wireless technology industry. And it addresses the impacts that unprecedented numbers of cell phones and multiple cell phone antennas on towers are having on human health, with special concern for children. And until biologically based standards for safe exposure to electromagnetic radiation, EMF, are developed, many scientists, physicians, and public health experts are urging governments and individuals to take steps to minimize community and personal EMF exposures. And here's an example. In the state of Maine, the Children's Wireless Protection Act is under consideration, making Maine the first state to take a firm stand for children's health regarding the hazards of wireless technologies by requiring a warning label on all cell phones. The label includes a picture showing the area of electromagnetic radiation produced by the cell phones surrounding the developing brain of a 5-year-old, and warns children and pregnant women to keep the device away from their head and body. In Greenwich, Connecticut, delegates are introducing legislation on cell phones next to schools and daycares. And so I question how much the Google proposal would increase the cumulative level of electromagnetic radiation, or EMF radiation, already in Missoula. And I understand that this is not what the current proposal is, but very possibly attached to it in the future. EMF is the kind of radiation emitted by wireless devices and systems, including cordless. I'm just trying to understand this all better myself, too. It's cordless phones as well as cell phones. It's internet, it's cellular antennas, it's Wi-Fi, it's broadcast transmission towers. Of concern are the areas where children spend time, in schools, daycares, and neighborhoods. So how would Missoula's children be protected from the cumulative impacts of EMF radiation, since Google's proposal is a community-wide plan? And I also question how Google coming to Missoula would affect the future business potential of local communication businesses already operating here, who, according to the March 12th Missoulian article, are already able to provide the level of service from their perspective ahead of the curve, and are positioned to provide faster broadband when it's needed. And how will the National Broadband Plan that was officially released by the FCC last Tuesday, outlining steps to higher quality internet access for all Americans, affect telecommunications in Missoula? The Center for Media Justice, commenting on the National Broadband Plan, said, quote, and this is kind of a paraphrase really, broadband is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity for education, employment, healthcare, government services, etc. The affordability factor is important for lower income families and people in rural areas. Adding broadband service to the Universal Service Fund, which already makes telephone service available and affordable to everyone, would be one way to lower internet connection costs. In other words, what benefit will the Google proposal bring us beyond what our local telecommunication companies already provide and the National Broadband Plan could provide? I know there's just a ton of excitement here, and I'm sorry to be a downer, but I really have concerns about the future application of where this might go. I think it's really important to do a careful cost-benefit analysis to really consider the costs as well as the benefits of a big international company like Google's proposal before we automatically assume the benefits outweigh the costs, and again, looking into the future. Do we know enough about Google's proposal and the potential effects on local businesses and citizens to be confident that this is a good decision for Missoula's long-term future? Rush decisions really scare me. They sometimes are not really good decisions.
I think that's all fair, Lynn. I don't think you're a downer. I think it's absolutely fair to ask those questions.
Well, I'm concerned about it. I mean, the more I look into this, the more concerned I get.
Thanks, Mr. Mary. You hoped that a provider would be here, and here we are. I'm Bill Squires with Blackfoot Telecommunications Group. And quite honestly, I came to just sit and listen and hear the pros and cons. And of course, since we've been mentioned, I might as well say my 2 bits worth. Just quickly with reference to the Missoulian article, I think it's absolutely accurate, and I hope people don't take it out of context. Missoula has the luxury of sitting right on several fiber routes, and so the ability to get broadband to virtually any business is there. Of course, the problem is always the cost, and it always will be the cost. It's been pointed out by several people already. It's cost prohibitive for us or any company to broadly distribute fiber throughout Missoula. You know, that involves tearing up streets, et cetera. And that's not a business proposition that probably anyone can justify. With that said, I'm here because Blackfoot very much thinks that having Google come to Missoula would be a fantastic thing, for exactly the reason the gentleman over here said. If Google picks Missoula, Missoula all of a sudden is on the business map. And that is good for all of us. It's good for my business, it's good for my children that go to school here, and it's good for the 145 people that we employ. So we're very much looking forward to trying to, someone else used the word, to leverage the opportunity to be a partner with Google and anybody else that happens to bring that. So I think that it is an opportunity that we're behind, and hopefully we can help leverage that. There was a couple comments about open access. That's something that's extremely important. Certainly for a company like ours that, as I said, couldn't afford to put fiber to my home in Miller Creek. I don't have that kind of connectivity. But if there's open access to the facilities that Google puts in, that's a huge benefit to all of us, and we're hoping for our company that lives and works here in Missoula. So we're here not to be a naysayer or be negative to the project. Actually, we think it would be a great thing for Missoula.
Hello, my name is Jordan Larson, and I'm an economist with DNRC, but I'm here speaking as a citizen of the community and someone who has a passive hobby approach to IT. I used to work in IT, I don't anymore, but I try to keep up on things, and I'm sometimes an amateur, especially with more of the telecommunications side. A few months ago, I was using a website called dig.com, and it's one of the Web 2.0 social sites. It's a news feed that I think a younger generation uses, and popular links show up every day, new links. And I discovered, I think it must have been the day that Google announced this project. And I immediately took the link and sent it to Alex Phillip, who's one of the tech CEOs here in Missoula. And I half-jokingly said, you know, wouldn't that be cool if Missoula did this? And I never heard back from Alex. He's a busy guy. But here we are so many weeks, months later. And I just wanted to say I'm really happy to see that, you know, through our community and our awareness, we've come to this point, and we're looking at the actual application. I think that's amazing. And I'm just really excited that it's happening. I wanted to also mention that I have some experience with the industry personally. I have a close friend who's an immense success story. He launched a website called StumbleUpon.com, and it's another Web 2.0 site. And one of the things I wanted to mention in observing how his company came to be was the viral phenomenon that is the IT world. And essentially what happens is you create a cluster effect. All the Silicon Valleys, the Silicon Forest areas, these areas where technology is kind of spurted up as a major industry, they tend to do so because of the need for these companies to interrelate, to communicate, talk to each other. Some of Google executives actually helped StumbleUpon become the company it is today, and Garrett took his company from Calgary, moved it down to San Francisco for the very purpose of being able to talk in person with the people that were going to help raise his company, which he did some years later sell for $60 million to eBay. That's an anecdotal piece of evidence, but I think it says a lot about how the IT world works. And to the extent that Missoula can put itself on the map, we might find ourselves at the focal point of a viral episode of IT economic development. And I'm not saying we're going to be the next San Francisco, but depending on how limited this application process is and how few cities get selected, we could very well be in the spotlight for, who knows what. The other thing I wanted to mention is I wanted to put in a plug for Rocky Mountain Supercomputing. It's a non-government or nonprofit kind of a think tank, I believe, that operates in Butte. Alex is a member of the group, and so is another gentleman from IBM. And I had the pleasure of talking with them about what Rocky Mountain Supercomputing is and what their goals are as an organization. And they are lobbying with the state and some of the city governments and a few other bodies to launch a supercomputing industry in Montana. And using what this gentleman over here mentioned was the dark fiber that's running through Montana. Montana has an incredible amount of dark fiber, and it's especially around the Butte area, but all along the interstate corridors, are tremendous locations to launch a supercomputing industry. Now, to a lot of folks, supercomputing is kind of a mysterious thing. It's not really sure what supercomputing is or what services it provides and who's buying and selling and what that industry really is. And honestly, it's still somewhat mysterious to me, but I have been doing some research, and I know that Rocky Mountain Supercomputing would be very interested in this project because the potential scale for that industry is much larger than some of the home and residential and small business efforts we've been talking about here tonight. I know that the supercomputing industry could potentially be an industrial scale or a Silicon Valley type scale development that could grow or spawn from something like an accepted Google application. So there's ideas on the table, and I just wanted to add that as an additional idea that there's potential for larger industry developments, not just to enhance the current industries that are in Montana, but to help spawn new ones, and not just one business or two businesses, but entire sectors. And something like this could be the very small beginning to a larger development. And so, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Olson. I am an employee of Bresnan. However, I'm not here as a representative of Bresnan, just a citizen. A couple things probably to mention. First of all, again, I agree with Bill here. In my opinion, Google coming to town is exciting. It's going to create competition. It's going to create less of a monopoly between the internet companies and the phone companies and whatnot. One other thing I want to mention as far as the article that was brought up, I think a context that was missed was as far as we've got enough bandwidth going to the House. It's only in a representation that, as far as streaming video, and I think that was the context that was being made. For a basic streaming video, YouTube, whatever website, yeah, it's adequate. In other references, technologies, no, it's probably not. However, there are things that are in place that I'm not entirely sure that the community is aware of. This town has got a lot of fiber all over the place. Bresnan is continuously pushing fiber all over the place. I actually have a direct hand in that. We do a lot of the hospitals here, both community and St. Pat's. We've got fiber going into them, keep up on their technologies. We're talking about for the doctors' meetings. Projects for the universities, for Fort Missoula. Again, we've got fiber going into all of that. And again, I don't think that's a thing that the community is fully aware of. There's also a lot of steps being taken in place already for fiber to the home. Any new plant development, any new community, neighborhood, whatnot, from here on out that is being developed, word is from Bresnan, it's supposed to be capable of fiber to the home. Google coming and what is being thought of Google coming is a fantastic idea. I think what needs to be kept in mind is it's not going to be instant. It's not going to be a cure-all. If Google does come to town, I mean, before it's thoroughly 100%, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some few years. There's construction involved, there's building involved, there's getting fiber, there's just the equipment getting in place, regardless of whether they're doing their own stuff or if they're coming in on the dark fiber. It's going to take some time. During that time, we're already taking the steps to do the exact same thing. So I won't say I'm indifferent, but I can see either way. And I think just the best thing about it is just simply the competition. And I apologize that we don't have better representation from Bresnan tonight.
Yeah, I'll just say a few words. I'm from here, born and raised up here, but I left to Seattle and LA, and I've been in the film and video world for the last 17 years, and trying to live back up here. So I'm able to work, and I'm mainly a gaffer lighter, but I'm looking to the future, and this is I don't know about exciting, but I am looking at the benefits of what we've talked about, the main thing, which is video streaming, and that we can talk about companies coming into Missoula, but I just think about the people that live here and the artists themselves who show their stuff on a wall. Maybe they have a website, but to really start to reach out farther beyond Missoula and the region, but across the world. I'm trying to work with some of the local artists to start to think that way, at least. And this kind of thing is fantastic. But it also, besides the university, besides the hospitals, and besides the bigger companies, I mean, there's insurance companies that have offices in buildings around here, and the way they have to sell themselves to the nation, they're not just selling to local, is going to be video. They're going to have some kind of face that they're showing, and so we can talk about people coming in, and that's fantastic. But I also just think I just want to give a shout out to all the people that have been living here and working here and just trying to make it in Missoula, that with something like this can have a much bigger outreach to, like I say, region, state, nation, world. So that's my 2 cents.
Sir? No? Didn't miss anybody? That's fantastic. Thank you. That's all very helpful. So a couple of things that your comments bring to mind. One is, if in the event that we have some success with our application with Google, there is a two-way street that's at play. And I think that's why Google is interested in talking to local governments. If Google's interested, I have a responsibility to all of you to ensure that what Google does here makes sense for our community. And so, Lynn, that's why you're not a downer. You're expressing the interests of the community, and there are lots of other interests in the room as well. But we have to pay. I have a responsibility to pay attention to that, and we all do to a great degree. And we may find that the expense, the frustration, the harm to infrastructure. I mean, there could be a laundry list of things that suggest to us maybe Missoula isn't the right fit. So we're going to ask the question and see if we can find a dance partner. And if it doesn't work, if we step on each other's toes, we'll know and we can regroup. But I do think it's an opportunity that we ought to chase, and we ought to see if there's a chance for that relationship to benefit not only Missoula but the folks that I think Google hopes to serve over the long term as well. So that's certainly a piece of the puzzle and our responsibility. If you are a community member, and if you're watching on MCAT, or if you happen to be reading about this in the newspaper, or watching this on one of our fine local broadcast affiliates, you can go to the City of Missoula's website, which is www, and it rolls off the tongue, www.ci.missoula.mt.us, or you can Google City of Missoula and get there faster. But thanks to the magic of our city clerk, Marty Rabine, we can go to our website, and right here is a quick link. Nominate Missoula for the Google Fiber project. Our understanding today is that this site will be up until the 26th of March. Is that the number, Jen? Yeah, that's the date. So tell all your friends, nominate Missoula if you're interested in doing so. You just go to the Nominate Your Community button. You will have to establish a Gmail account. And Google, again, didn't just fall off the turnip truck. They're very happy to have a little bit of your data. In my opinion, the Gmail account is fairly harmless. I cannot type and talk at the same time, however. I'll be right back. It is indeed free. Sorry, to have a Gmail account. And then you just work your way through the tabs here. Your name, your organization or community group, your response, where you live, very important. Why should Google build a fiber to the home network where you live? The answer is entirely yours. Web link to supporting material. So we had mentioned earlier, some folks might want to create a YouTube video or other supporting material. This is your opportunity to create that link to send it directly to Google. What kind of service do you use at home? And you get any of these options. What company? Any of these options are available, and you can also choose other. The advertised speed of your home internet service, if you happen to know what it is. Your actual download speed during the evening. And to get this information, you simply click on any of these numbers, but Speed Test is the one I've used in the office. It will take you out to another website. And you just start the test. Folks at ModWest hosting this item. While the test is going on, one of you mentioned the notion that some other communities might be ahead of the game here in terms of what I'm going to describe as gimmicks. And while I think it's necessary to have a sense of humor in my line of work, I do take the job pretty seriously. And I also think that to a certain degree, doing business in Missoula is a privilege. And to rename our city, I think mocks the value of the place and all the work that's gone into it. So I'm okay with a little shtick once in a while, but this is part of my job is to remind folks how wonderful this place is, even when we tend to forget it occasionally. And I'm happy to remind Google of that as well. It's a fantastic place to live and do business and participate fully in a community. And if Google wants to do that, we'll talk. So you now get your download and upload speeds, which if you're me, you'll have to write on a sticky note so that you can remember more than 3 digits at a time. Then you go back here and plug in whatever those numbers are. Right? You can tell these folks how much your internet service costs, whether you're bundled with one of our providers. Did your high-speed internet service not work correctly at any point? And I have to tell you that my wife operates a travel agency, and she does that from our home. It's a home office. It's correctly zoned for that, by the way, and we have a city business license. And our provider at home is Quest, and I can tell you, I don't think if we've had a problem with Quest in terms of the network going down in 3 years, I'd be surprised. And when we have had trouble, it's been resolved pretty easily. So again, I think this isn't about bashing providers. It's about how do we work together to provide this sort of access to everyone. And one of the points that Lynn had made, I think too, is about there is a social justice piece of this too. Who gets access to technology, and what it can do for the individual in terms of income, education, et cetera, and who doesn't. And I think there's something sort of egalitarian about this effort that I find pretty attractive as well. So, again, you're clicking through these other items, and finally when you're done, you click Send Nomination, and you're done. It's that simple. So again, if you want to go home and do this evening, that'd be great. And you have until March 26th to do it if you'd like to show your support in any way. And you're welcome to give us a holler as well. I'm sorry? Until 5 o'clock Pacific time, Ellen suggests. So again, I thank you for taking the time this evening. This is very informative. Gives us a little more information. It's good to also understand some concerns. You know, not everything is sweetness and light, and I think we need to recognize that and acknowledge that and mitigate for it in the event that we end up with this opportunity. But again, it's really nice of you to take your time on a lovely Thursday evening in Missoula to help us understand what you're interested in more. And again, I hope you have a chance to do some clicking this evening before you go to bed, or eat, or watch a fabulous basketball game, which you could stream, by the way, from anywhere if you had Google Fiber, I think. So, anything else we're missing, folks? Oh, and the rally on Saturday. Thank you again for that. Appreciate that. All right. With that, as I said, we're really informal. Yes, sir.
Could I add one
You certainly may.
phrase to my statements? Sure. If we took a theoretical model, if there was fiber to the prim everywhere in Missoula, we would essentially have a system that would be similar to an interstate highway system to everybody's NID, or network interface device, at the outside of their home. They could take that one step further and put a fiber connection to their computer. There are no limits to what we can do with fiber. There are also some statements I want to make in regards to the EMF concerns and the safety concerns the woman over there mentioned. If we had an absolutely comprehensive fiber network, it is immune to EMF. It works on a totally different type of transport. It is light blinking on and off. At any speed you could possibly fathom, it's always being developed. Bell Labs comes up with new prototypes, new patents annually, almost daily, in fact. We're looking at the potential of that infrastructure to everyone's access, even someone that lives in a mobile home. Let's say that person in that mobile home had a desire to create his business there. Why should he have to sell his real estate, move to a place that's next to the on-ramp of the interstate so he could do his proposed business plan or his communication at highest speeds? So once again, I have many contributions, and one final one I want to mention is that we've gotten used to using cell phones. They've got some detributes to them. Driving while distracted is one of them. And there may be laws that come down the pike that might prevent us absolutely from using our cell phones in our cars. And so we would have to get off the road, make our phone calls at maybe a fiber node, and then do our high-speed communication. So there are many, many, many benefits to looking at a comprehensive fiber placement. Thank you.
Who did I miss? Councilman Weiner, do we want to hear from him? I don't know. Jason, you have something?
I have 12 computers at home. I'm one of you. Many of them are broken. Thanks for calling the meeting, too.
Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate it. My pleasure.
I just want to put in one more plug for the site up there, mtspeedtest.org. That'll be up. Do this one this week, but then that'll be up through the spring. And the state will be putting this map up as an interactive website, so you can click on any census block in the state and find out which providers, look at the competition, look at what the speeds are, And this is thoroughly vetted data, checked by independent sources. We have a company, Root Wireless, that's driving every state and federal highway in Montana as we speak with a kind of a "Can you hear me now" box with a bunch of equipment in it that's measuring every second the measure to the signal, who's providing it, what's the quality. So, and this website doesn't pop up a little ad saying, "Would you like a better source?" It's a sponsored government-run site, independent. And it'll really help us make a better map if we had sort of a crowdsourcing support to check what the providers are telling us and improve the quality of. It's essentially your broadband map. It'll be part of the national broadband map, so you can click on this anywhere in the country and get that independent source that's not provided just by the providers or by Google. So do this one this week, and then sometime this spring, help us out and check out the other one.
And it will ask you to provide your address. That address is going nowhere except into our database so that we can get a geolocate on where you're getting your service. We've noticed in the, what is it up to now? Yesterday it was 4,000 hits that we've gotten already on it, but some people just won't give us their address. It's interesting information, but we can't get enough out of that without the